Welcome back to the F3 podcast. I'm so excited with my guest today is Josh Burton, Jingle. Jingle, thanks for joining us. This week, we are in Q1.12 meeting. And if you've been a part of the Northeast Wake community for the last couple of years, I think you know why I asked Jingle to come on the podcast to talk about meeting. So Jingle, I want to touch on the Jingle Mingle. We might have some viewers that are outside of our region that might find us on the internet,
Sure.
but they don't know our history and our background. So Jingle brought this concept, this idea to our community where he or somebody coined the Jingle Mingle. Mm-hmm. And he created this way for us all to meet intentionally, to really get to know each other, to hear each other's stories. And we've done it twice now, and it's just been a really great thing for me personally and our community at large. So before we dive too much further into the chapter, just preface the Jingle Mingle. Where did that come from? Why did you decide that you thought this would be a good thing for our community?
Sure. So first, I named it something really functional and dorky. And so I don't 100% remember who coined the name Jingle Mingle. It wasn't me. It was around the COT, and then everybody started calling it, and I resisted for about 2 weeks, and I was like, all right, I'm going to give in here.
Dude, it's perfect.
Yeah, and that's how things in F3 work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to notice it, is that I think at the time I'd been working out with F3 2.5 years, kind of somewhere in that ballpark. And you work out beside guys and you hear occasionally prayer requests and COT, but a lot of those tend to be, about somebody else, right? Like somebody else that's struggling, somebody else that's having a tough moment. And it's great to tap into that compassion, empathy, but like you don't always know who are the people you're working out beside.
Yeah.
And so we made something that was just like a low barrier to entry experience, because we knew with our packs, like if we said, okay, hey, we're going to meet every week for a year for 6 months and it's going to be deep and intentional, like we weren't at a place, one, with just time availability, but two, with just that level of commitment. And so the Jingle Bingo really was like, can we get 6 to 8 people together in the cold part of the winter when things are a bit slower and get them to meet twice, and everybody gets 20 to 30 minutes to share whatever version of their life story that they want to share. It doesn't have to be pretty. You don't have to tie it up in a bow and say, hey, I'm at the pinnacle of my life right now. And it doesn't have to be complete. It can be whatever snapshot that person feels comfortable sharing. And I think it's been really successful in the sense that it gave people a lot of opportunity to share more about how they got there and what makes them tick and who's important to them. But one of the more interesting things I thought this time is we had a lot of those groups that continued to meet for coffee after the fact, and may lead into longer, more committed, supporting relationships for one another based on the fact that now they've got some sense of knowing one another that they didn't have before.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it wasn't kind of successful. It was wildly successful. I think people were shocked at the value they got out of it. The guys, I wasn't able to do the first round. And it was interesting because I didn't feel like I knew everybody well enough, but that was the point of it. And anybody who kind of against their will did it anyways, left thinking, oh my gosh, how incredible these men I get to know and work out beside. And when the next time it came around, everybody was like, you have to do this. And the participation is great. And the way I just feel like the camaraderie is built because when I'm working out next to you, dude, you shared your story with me. Like I got to hear your journey in a way that I don't get, like you say, and doing Merkins next to you. And so I'm really glad that you inserted that and you kept doing it. And I know that it's an annual thing, because guys will say, we're going to do this because it's so impactful. Well, let's jump into this chapter. So this chapter meeting, so much of the focus of the book is about church attendance, which is good. I attended church and I have for a long time, but I want us to just take it wherever it goes. I like to think principally sometimes deeper or past what some of the dialogue in the chapter goes. And I think this is a very important concept for our development as leaders. And I don't want us to limit this next 20 minutes to the book, though I'm not saying we shouldn't go there, but
Sure.
just when you read meeting, and I would say anyone who's gone to Q Source with you, we look to you as a leader, as a mentor in this space of meeting and of caring for people and being emotionally mature and how to grow as a leader. Like you are seen that way. And so I want to give you the ability to say, when you think about this topic and you think about our community and men in general, like why is this important to our growth and our leadership development?
Sure. Yeah, that's a big and heavy topic. Um, you know, anecdotally, I think I've observed over a lifetime that men show up with other men when we have a task to do, right? We've got a function.
Mm,
We've got
mm.
something we're trying to accomplish. If we like the task, we'll show up. If we don't like the task, we generally don't show up, right? And I think that's pretty
Yeah.
fair, like on average. And our relationships sort of like ebb and flow based on that, right? Like we have rich relationships if we have a task that continues that is inviting both of us to be in the same place at the same time. But if it's after basketball season or if it's F3, I got injured, right? And I'm out for a couple months, right? Like those relationships get stretched because we don't have that place to intersect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that leads to just a lack of sticking power with relationships. It leads to a lack of like depth. I mean, I might be, I mean, F3 is a good example. Like I might be next to you for 2 to 3 years. I might be struggling with some really significant diagnosis or loss in my family, right? I may open up none of that to you for two
Yeah.
and a half to 3 years. And realistically, you might be the closest thing to a meaningful community that I have, right?
Mm,
So like it's important because we have these opportunities, but I think as men, we really haven't built skills to take advantage of them, right? And I'm not saying like we need to just go in and unload in such a way where we like violate our own boundaries or violate, the other person's like where the relationship's actually at. But at the same time, we're really not great at like incrementally building trust with one another, right? Over time. And that's where things like showing up at Q Source, which you've taken a lot of leadership in with F3, like you've really made it into a third space for people to continue to show up, even if they're injured, right? Even
mm-hmm.
if they're not even feeling strong enough to do workouts at the level of our current workouts, maybe
Mm-hmm.
they're starting at a lower place, but it's letting them show up for one another and just like build that pattern of I can be honest, I can share a few thoughts, I can listen to others, I can try to expand my compassion and empathy for them. Um, I think any of those opportunities that we have, like if I was to push myself, this is me speaking to me too. It's like I need to do better taking advantage of those when I have them and not just look past them. Um,
So what I'm
some
hearing you say is I loved how you say, a lot of times we men are task driven. And so we think about accomplishing or doing a task and we instinctually know we need the help of others, but we look right past the benefit of being in community and being known by others.
Yeah, I think that's true. And like it's like crisis compels it. It's like when we have crisis, like we're really hoping we have somebody that's in our corner that knows us, that is there beside us, right? And I think, all too often we're alone or we're very limited in those relationships. And the crazy thing is that a lot of times it's not like the heavy lifting. I mean, the jingle mingle is a good example. Taking a few minutes to share about yourself or listen to somebody else, right? To just open up with a little bit of honesty about like what your lived experience is, or to listen to somebody else and validate it. Like it doesn't take a lot, but it takes the consistency, and I think that's where this chapter in Q source, like the idea of just that consistency of showing up when it's boring, when it's ordinary, when it's a good time or just an ordinary time, and not when it's crisis. Like that is how you build the infrastructure you need for those
Yeah.
relationships to be there in crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Absolutely. So then let me so we're laying this foundation of the importance of having those relationships that undergird our lives and our ability to have stability in our lives and have a support network in our lives. And now let's build a layer on top of that as we think about our leadership development and our ability to be effective in our communities, right? And so when I think there's kind of this theme in quadrant one, which is you got to get right inside of yourself, but you're never going to get right alone, right?
Mhm.
So we talked about shield lock of having other people in your life that can speak in your life. We talk about whetstone, having mentors in our life. We talk about our shorties, our M's, and that foundation that you were just describing about having it built in your life. And I think meeting is the place that all of those come to bear. And
Mhm.
really, the benefit out of meeting is that we have people who know us that can provide encouragement and accountability,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
And it's those two things that we need others to
Mhm.
provide for us to take our leadership to another level, to be more successful in life. But we need meeting as this place where that can happen.
Mhm. A thousand percent. And like spiritual community has its own like special place because it invites you to like, share in something that feels transcendent, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
you're honoring, you're honoring the greatness of the divine, of God,
Mm-hmm.
of love, of like
Mm-hmm.
hope in a world that can be redeemed, of,
Yeah.
like and it's compelling, but it's also beautiful in the sense that you're inviting people regardless of age, stature, gender, like that you were saying, like my community includes all of these people, right? And I'm willing to make myself vulnerable to and for these
Yeah.
people, and so it's we need it. And from a leadership lens, like I need it because like my I get two eyes, two ears, and one nose, and like the amount of data I have coming into my brain, I get overloaded with just those few elements. But my perspective is incredibly limited because that's all I've
Yeah.
got, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the only way that I can like expand my compassion, expand my insight, like challenge my blind spots, gosh, I mean, I I only know what I know, right? And I'm so prone to getting into like locked into a cognitive process that I'll repeat because it worked for me before, right? Like apart from being in that presence of a community, right? Having that provoke you, having that challenge you, having that comfort you, right? Like it's that reaffirmation of humanity and showing you like that I need to be able to see from their eyes too, right? And yeah, go ahead.
Well, so to that point, then let's layer on meeting into that because I can look for that through social media posts, through watching someone's YouTube video, to reading a book by an expert in those topics that continue to give me those perspectives, and all of those are good.
Hmm.
But I believe it really needs connection,
Hmm.
live connection. In person is better. I've had
Yeah.
some really meaningful Zoom connection though, so I don't want to discount that completely. But I think to compound that actual learning
Hmm.
and to intensify it so that you actually get meaningful, lasting results, I think the meeting component is essential.
It is. I mean, part of it's just the gift of your presence,
Yes.
and sometimes
Yes.
it's virtual, but it's like, am I willing to give you my intention? Am I willing to give you my
Yeah.
presence, right? Like, can
Yeah.
can I give that to you for an hour because I'm choosing to say that you matter, right? And vice versa. And like there's so few settings that we get that in life
Yeah.
anymore. And social media, I can't say it's all bad, but we
Yeah.
definitely can't say it's all good either.
Correct.
And you know, frankly, the research on it says that like the more you engage with it, anxiety and depression go up. So like
Right.
it has its limits where, we OD on it and
Mm-hmm.
we actually lose that sense of like human connection that we need. Right. So I think there is something uniquely powerful in carving out the time to give to others and to receive. Like I think it's
Yes.
both because it's also
Yeah.
that humility to say, I need your presence too. Right. You matter to
Yeah.
me. And the gift of your presence is I will show up for that just because you're you.
Yeah. Let me write this note down and make sure we get somewhere. So I'm thinking about as you're talking, there's a couple old adages like more is caught than taught,
Hmm.
and really like learning through osmosis. And I think there is just an intangible value and quality to those statements. I've had mentors in my life that one of my most profound mentors was a man of few words,
Mm-hmm.
and he would not expound and elaborate. He was not an intellectual in that way. His sheer presence alone
Mm-hmm.
changed me. My time with him changed me. Just being around his energy and his peace and the wisdom, oftentimes that wasn't even spoken, but the wisdom that he exuded through his presence, because he was a wise man and much older than me, changed me. And I valued anytime we could walk joined together, or I could just sit and close enough to almost feel him. There was something about that caught then taught, and also being close enough with people that you could watch how they operated, how they responded, how they went about their life, that you just can't get in a social media post, that you have to be in physical proximity to really get that value out of them.
Mm-hmm. 1,000%.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, let's add the meaning then. In that same way, I'd love to know your thoughts on this. I feel like I've learned, and it's really kind of codified more strongly in my mind the last couple of years. There's such a value of being in the right environment,
Mm-hmm.
and you can read a book all you want, but if you went to the seminar with
Mm-hmm.
150 other people and you're all connected, locked in on this one topic together, like the amount of change that can happen inside of you, it can compound so quickly because of the environment of being around these people who are after the same thing. That I think, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, and I'd love to just pull that out into the light and maybe get people thinking about this importance of choosing environments and looking for environments.
No, I mean, I see that in F3. I see that in the church that my family attends. A very, small thing, but it's meaningful, is just the service projects that like tapping into other people's compassion and
Yeah.
seeing where there's needs in the community. I mean, I I have had the experience both in F3 and the church. Like, we have volunteered in ways that I wouldn't have, not because my compassion wasn't there, but because
Yeah.
I needed the help to, one, set the opportunity, but I didn't have the relationship, right? Like, my
Yeah. Right.
relationality only went so far. And so, like, by showing up, it compels me to have experiences and to, like, show up in my community in tangible ways that I wouldn't have. And we saw that, I guess, in February with Spit
Mm-hmm.
Valve. Like, is his relationship with the food bank
Mm-hmm.
and willingness to hear that they needed feminine hygiene products, of all things. And what does it look like to have a bunch of men raising funds and collecting feminine hygiene products? I don't know, but it was an appropriate poke at the need in the community and a challenge to my own compassion. And I mean, it was great to see so many of the packs like rise to the challenge and donate and collect goods. And showing up to workout after workout with
Mm-hmm.
boxes of tampons is not what you typically see.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it mattered.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think there's that part that I see in a very tangible way in both of those settings. Certainly other things, but like, it's that expansion, not just of like head knowledge, but of like
Mm-hmm.
community investment, that challenges me, but pulls me in a different direction that I wouldn't have gone into otherwise.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I really appreciated you leading the charge with Third F in our community and the service projects. It's just so easy to give money at church, to throw money at a donation, but to continue to stay in your own world. And it's not that you don't care; it's that you're just consumed with the day to day tasks of what it takes to lead a family. But then when someone can say, hey, what if we volunteer, what if we donate, what if we get involved in this thing, like, wow, what if, okay, I can do that. And it definitely changes. And there's a value to not just the donation, but the fact that you're doing it together.
100%.
So yeah. Well, let's as we wrap up, let's use this to give a quick plug to the second quarter Third F service project that Jingle and I are working on. So there's a ministry my family and I have supported for many years, Hope and Vine. They help women who've aged out of foster care. And they do a project every year called the Widow Orphan Project, where this ministry that helps orphans decides to give back and serve a widow in the community. And so there's a widow in our community that we are going to do a service project for us F3 community, along with the Hope and Vine community, to help her. And so it's Saturday, May 17th. We'll mainly be doing yard work on the outside of her house. And we're also donating funds, and the donations help this ministry that helps women age out of foster care. And I think it will be a great, beautiful day and a great time for us to come together, not just to serve someone else, but to spend that time together in meeting, helping someone with a common goal and a common cause.
Great. And I'll reiterate, if you're a PAX and you're in town, please be there.
Yeah, we could do a lot of good really quick. Well, as we kind of wrap this up, I'd love to get any parting thoughts or comments, just to kind of leave some questions to leave our PAX with. As you could tell, our conversation went off script of the chapter. I don't want to discourage you from reading the chapter. You heard from Jingle and I both. We're churchgoers, believe the importance of being in a community of believers, and meeting together with those. But I really appreciate where our conversation went. And hopefully you PAX are starting to think a little bit more than just what do I do on Sunday? And what do I do? Do I go to a Q source table? But start to be intentional about meeting and understand how important it is that we're intentional about the people we spend our time with, the way that we open our hearts to share with each other, the true connection that's being made, because that's how we're changed, and that's how we change others. And I really believe it's the people in our lives that will help us get to our next level. What's your any parting comments, thoughts, or questions for the PAX?
Yeah, I would agree with amen to what you're saying. I only other thing I would say is, and this is the challenge myself, is how can I take advantage of the opportunities that I already have to expand them,
Oh, wow.
to be slightly more intentional, to
Yeah.
like, could I leave 2025 with three more like meaningful relationships with people that I'm seeing in these settings already, that I mean, have some coffee, go for a walk, invite them to F3, like do sometimes these little baby efforts. I'm thinking of Poppy, who texts me encouraging messages, and I think he does it to lots of people. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's a little effort, send a text, but it's enough to be like, this guy's in my corner, I'm in his
Yeah.
corner, right?
Yes.
Like, what
Yes.
are the little things you can do to expand so that by the end of the year you could maybe have three more meaningful relationships in your life that are on the edges right now? Like, how do we take that to the next level?
I love it. Challenge accepted here for sure. I hope that you listeners will take that challenge to heart. So, Jingle, I just want to affirm you. I just so appreciate your time. I affirm you as a leader. I've looked up to you as a leader in this community since I joined. I value your presence, your wisdom. You're always sharing from this caring place, but you bring so much research, experience, heart, and care to the way you work out, but the way that you show up, the way you encourage us, the way you contribute to the Q source conversation, our community. So I appreciate all of your time invested in our community and my life.
1,000% the same for you, Money Pit.
Appreciate it. All right, Pax,
Thank you.
good to see you. We will see you this week at the Q source table.